So you have to take the enemy for who they are and what they say they are doing, especially when the leader of the caliphate of ISIS has a PhD in Islamic studies. So I'm going to listen to him and I'm going to take him for who he is. But I will tell you that I thank you for standing up and doing what is necessary, just the same as I thanked those interpreters and translators that stood there with me fighting in Iraq and fighting in Afghanistan. But if there's to be a change in the Muslim world, if you want to call it that way, we need the young people to stand up.
Looking into this back and forth, immediately after Allen West's opening comments about the Quran, Hadith, Sunnah, and 622 AD, it's important to understand what brought the question to the table. Former Congressman Allen West has argued that Islam is not simply a religion, as majority believe, but a political and theocratic ideology that needs to be taken seriously. Now, a Boston University student who says he has worked in elections, campaigns, courts, and countering violent extremism wants West to explain exactly what he means. He has a specific question about the religion Islam, religious freedom, and the rights of American Muslims, and he's determined to get an answer no matter how long it takes.
I study international relations over here at Boston University. I've staffed elections, worked on elections, worked in campaigns, worked in courts, worked with Homeland Security on countering violent extremism initiatives. So I'm a patriotic American who wants to go into public service to serve this country. Now, once you know that about myself, I just want to bring up something that you've said in the past that I was hoping to ask you a little bit about. So let me just pull it up. Any previous campaign event that you've had, let me just pull this up right here. You once said, and I will quote, "We already have a fifth column that is already infiltrating into our colleges, into our universities, into our high schools, into our religious aspect, our cultural aspect, our financial, our political systems in this country. And that enemy represents something called," and I quote you, "Islam. And Islam is a totalitarian, theocratic political ideology. It is not a religion. It has not been a religion since 622 AD. And we need to have individuals that stand up and say that." And then you went on to say that.
Well, let me ask you this: Have you ever?
I definitely have a question.
You're not asking a question. You're just reading a statement. Now,
sir,
I'm going to
ask
you. No, I'm going to because I know what you're trying to say. All due respect to you too. Have you ever read the strategic memorandum of the Muslim Brotherhood that was written in 1991 by Muhammad Akram that was found in an FBI raid in 2004 in the basement of a house in Northern Virginia?
Yes, I have. And if you read the Constitution of Medina, the Constitution of the Medina was the last document that Prophet Muhammad put out before he passed away. And
did you ever read the Treaty of Hudaybiyah?
No, but sir,
I mean, we can go back and forth on historical documents.
Sir, with all due respect, sir, I haven't even asked my question.
I know. That's why I'm waiting on.
So let me ask you the question. So, you've called Islam a theocratic political ideology.
Okay.
So my first question.
So what is Iran?
So my first question is, how do you define a religion? And from there on, what makes Islam not a religion in your eyes? And then from there on, are you suggesting that American Muslims, such as myself, are not worthy of religious protections and religious rights as enshrined in our Constitution?
I did not say that.
So explain to me, how do you define a religion?
As a matter of fact, I left my house plenty of times to go over and fight in Kuwait and in Afghanistan and Iraq for the ability for individuals to have freedom. But if you want me to sit here and deny history, if you want me to sit here and act like some things have never happened, I'm not going to do that. I do not have the onus to, make a statement about what is fact. Okay, we can go back and we can read the Quran, we can read the Hadith, we can read the Sunnah, we can compare it up with history, and we can see that there was a definite departure from a basic religious belief in 622 AD, and you can see the verses, how they changed. And I understand Islamic jurisprudence, and I understand the Arabic term naskh, which means subsequent verses of the Quran supersede the previous verses, but they're all still the verses of Allah as given down to Muhammad.
Immediately after Allen West has explained his position on history, the Quran, naskh, and Islamic jurisprudence, the disagreement between the Islamic student and Allen West is now becoming much more specific. West argues that history, Islamic jurisprudence, and the doctrine of naskh have to be taken seriously when examining how Islam developed. But the student's original question is still hanging over the conversation, which is, if Islam is not a religion in West's view, then what exactly makes it different from one? And what does that mean for American Muslims protected by the Constitution? The two men are clearly talking about related issues, but they still aren't answering the same question.
So what I'm trying to tell you is when I look at the Islamic Republic of Iran, when I look at Saudi Arabia, and how interesting it is that Saudi Arabia was just put on the Commission for Women's Rights when they have the greatest violation of women's rights whatsoever. I have a problem with that, having two daughters, okay? So I will tell you this, I'm happy to work with you, but I think we need to come to an understanding that there is a problem. And if you want to continue on, as we just saw current administration, last administration do, with obfuscation, denial, and dismissal. I think one of the worst things that President Obama did was when he stood up there in August of 2014 and said, let me make myself very clear, ISIS is not Islamic. Well, I don't know what the I stands for. It's not Southern Baptist, it's not Mennonite, it's not Presbyterian. So you have to take the enemy for who they are and what they say they are doing, especially when the leader of the caliphate of ISIS has a PhD in Islamic studies. So I'm going to listen to him and I'm going to take him for who he is. But I will tell you that I thank you for standing up and doing what is necessary, just the same as I thanked those interpreters and translators that stood there with me fighting in Iraq and fighting in Afghanistan. But if there's to be a change in the Muslim world, if you want to call it that way, we need the young people to stand up. And the sad thing that we have not done in the United States of America, we have not stood up with you, just the same as the Green Movement in Iran, just the same as we misread the Arab Spring, just the same as we stood next with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. We have made some very bad decisions. And I would...
With all due respect, sir, you have not answered my question.
When the student interrupts with all due respect, sir, you have not answered my question. We can clearly see that this is the moment the student has been waiting for. After listening to West discuss ISIS, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the Muslim Brotherhood, and the broader problem of jihadism, he brings the conversation straight back to his original challenge. What defines a religion, and why does West believe Islam does not meet that definition? As soon as West begins answering, the student immediately pushes back, accusing him of giving another talking point instead of directly addressing the question at hand. And now, the debate is no longer just about Islam. It's about whether the central question has actually been answered.
What defines a religion and why is Islam not a
Religion
religion?
is
Because in
man-made
your
dogma.
words,
No,
Islam
no,
is not
look.
a theocratic idea.
Since
Very
622
nice talking
AD,
point
since
you've given me,
622
sir.
AD, it has not reflected itself as being a religion, but yet it can still call itself a religion. That's the whole purpose of, like I said, the theory of abrogation. But we have got to understand that there is something that is happening that we need to work together to dismiss. And when I see the Organization of Islamic Cooperation that does not understand that there is a problem with Islamic jihadism, when I see an organization like the Council for American Islamic Relations that are, doing things to shut down free speech and shut down people that want to talk about this jihadist problem, then I see them more a part of the problem than a part of the solution. We can go back and we can read the Quran, we can read the Hadith, we can read the Sunnah, we can compare it up with history, and we can see that there was a definite departure from a basic religious belief in 622 AD, and you can see the verses, how they changed.
That Muslims are not condemning terrorism when they're the largest victims of jihadism and terrorism?
Well, I tell you something, if they were condemning terrorism, we probably wouldn't have as much terrorism.
Immediately after the final exchange, where West says, if they were condemning terrorism, we probably wouldn't have as much terrorism. That is where this confrontation ends, with the two sides still divided over just one fundamental issue. Allen West argues that the history of Islam, Islamic jurisprudence, and modern jihadism reveal a serious problem that cannot simply be dismissed. The student, meanwhile, keeps demanding a direct definition of religion and an explanation for why Islam should be treated differently. So, who made the stronger case? Did West adequately defend his position, or did the student expose a question that never received a clear answer?